Sometimes a single decision made in a moment of desperation can ruin a life forever, and Kira Amaechi learned this too late. Kira pushed open the door to her dorm room with her shoulder because her hands were full with her bag and a takeout container from the diner. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, and every muscle in her body ached with fatigue. Her 8-hour shift as a waitress at a cheap diner on Mission Street had turned into 10 hours because Ricky, the other waiter, had failed to show up for work again, and the manager had looked at Kira imploringly, and she hadn't been able to refuse. She couldn't, because she knew that if she refused, she would simply stop getting shifts. Rochelle was lying on her bed with her phone in her hands, and when Kira entered, she didn't even look up. "Hi," Kira said wearily, kicking off her sneakers at the door. Her feet burned as if she had spent the day running a marathon instead of working in a diner. "Hi," Rochelle replied, finally looking up from her screen. She looked closely at Kira and frowned. "You look terrible." "Thanks, you look great too." Kira tried to smile, but it came out crooked. She walked over to her bed, threw her bag on the floor, and just fell face down on the pillow. She lay motionless for a few minutes, feeling the tension slowly leave her shoulders. Rochelle remained silent, giving her a chance to catch her breath, and that was one of the reasons why Kira was grateful to fate for such a neighbor. Rochelle knew how to understand without words. "I need to take a shower," Kira finally muttered, but didn't move. "Eat something first. Did you bring food from the diner?" "Mm-hmm. Leftover burgers and fries. They would have thrown them away anyway." Kira forced herself to get up, took a container of cold food out of the bag, and began to eat with her hands, without even reheating it. Hunger was stronger than disgust. Rochelle sat on her bed, hugging her knees, and looked at her with concern. "Kira, this can't go on forever. You work like crazy, study, hardly sleep. Look at yourself. You're all gray with bruises under your eyes. When was the last time you had a proper rest?" "I don't remember," Kira admitted honestly, swallowing a bite of her burger. "Probably last weekend, or the weekend before that." "What difference does it make, Rochelle? I need money. My mom is barely making ends meet. I can't ask her for more help than she already gives. Rent, textbooks, food, transportation. It all costs money. I can't just quit my job." "I know, but you're going to work yourself into the hospital. And then what? How are you going to work if you collapse?" Kira finished the last of her potatoes and wiped her hands with a napkin. Suddenly, she felt so overwhelmed that tears welled up in her eyes. She tried to hold them back, but couldn't. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and she covered her face with her hands so Rochelle wouldn't see her crying. Hey. Rochelle quickly moved over to her bed and hugged Kira around the shoulders. "Everything will be fine. We'll find a way out." "What way out?" Kira sobbed. "I work almost every day, taking all the shifts I can, and still I can barely afford the bare necessities. I can't even afford to buy new clothes. All my clothes are either secondhand or from school. I'm 21, Rochelle, and I feel like I'm 40. I'm so tired. So damn tired." Rochelle remained silent, continuing to hug her, and Kira cried, burying her face in her shoulder. She cried from exhaustion, from hopelessness, from not seeing a way out of this vicious circle. She needed to finish university, get her degree, find a decent job. But that was still a year and a half away, and she didn't know how she would survive all that time. When her tears dried up, Kira lifted her head and wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Rochelle looked at her with a strange expression on her face, as if she wanted to say something but was hesitant. "What?" Kira asked, sniffling. "There is one option," Rochelle said slowly, "but you probably won't agree to it." "What option?" Rochelle paused, clearly choosing her words. "An option to earn a lot of money right away, enough to last several months, maybe even 6 months. Kira looked at her blankly. "I don't understand what you're talking about. What kind of job could give me that much money right away? I don't have any special skills. I'm a waitress, Rochelle. Just a regular waitress." Rochelle sighed deeply. "It's not really a job. It's a one-time deal. Are you a virgin?" The question came so unexpectedly that Kira was taken aback. What? What does that have to do with anything? Just answer me. Are you a virgin? Yes. Kira felt her cheeks flush. So what? What does that have to do with... There are men who are willing to pay a lot of money for virgins, Rochelle said quickly, not looking Kira in the eye. A lot of money. $50,000 for one night. A heavy silence hung in the air. Kira looked at Rochelle, unable to believe her ears. You're joking. No. Are you suggesting that I sell myself? Kira's voice trembled with indignation and shock. I'm offering you an option. Just an option, Kira. You yourself say that you have no money and don't know how to go on living. This is a way to solve all your problems in one night. You're crazy! Kira jumped out of bed, recoiling from Rochelle. How can you even suggest such a thing? It's what I did a year ago, Rochelle said calmly, finally looking up at her. I sold my virginity for $50,000. That's why I can afford not to work and focus on my studies. That's why I have normal clothes and can help my family. Kira froze in place, digesting what she had heard. Rochelle, her neighbor, her friend, who always seemed so carefree and confident, who never complained about money, bought textbooks without batting an eye at the price, sometimes even ordered food delivery instead of eating in the student cafeteria. Kira had always thought that Rochelle simply came from a wealthy family. I can't, Kira whispered, shaking her head. I can't do that. It's wrong. It's wrong to drive yourself to exhaustion, Rochelle objected. It's wrong to live in constant stress because of money. It's wrong to deny yourself everything. Kira, I'm not forcing you. I'm just saying that this option exists. I have a friend who organizes these meetings. Everything is confidential. Everything is safe. The clients are verified, wealthy, and they need discretion just as much as you do. No, Kira said firmly. No, don't even think about it anymore, and don't ever mention it to me again. It's disgusting. She grabbed a towel and rushed out of the room, heading for the communal shower. She stood under the hot water for a long time, trying to wash away not only her fatigue, but also the feeling of dirtiness from her conversation with Rochelle. How could she even suggest such a thing? How could anyone even think about it? But when Kira returned to her room, changed into her pajamas, the thoughts were still spinning in her head. $50,000. For one night. It was an unrealistic amount. It was all her problems solved in one fell swoop. It was an opportunity to help her mother, pay for her education, stop working like a horse, and focus on her studies. It was freedom. But at what cost? Rochelle lay on her bed, facing the wall. Kira lay down on her bed without saying a word. She reached for the bedside table, turned off the light, and the room was plunged into darkness. I'm sorry, Rochelle said quietly. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to help. I know, Kira replied just as quietly. Good night. But the night was not peaceful. Kira lay with her eyes open, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Thoughts swarmed in her head like angry bees. $50,000. One night. Just one night. And all her problems would be solved. No, it's wrong. It's unacceptable. Normal people don't do that. But normal people don't work 10 hours a day while attending university. Normal people don't eat leftovers from a diner. Normal people... Kira closed her eyes and forced herself to think about something else. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., she had a sociology lecture, then a seminar, then another lecture. In the evening, she had a shift at the diner. A normal day. A normal life. The next morning, Kira woke up exhausted. Rochelle was already gone. Her classes started earlier. Kira quickly got ready, grabbed her backpack, and ran to her first lecture. Professor Adams was reading something about social stratification, about inequality in modern society, about how economic factors determine people's life opportunities. Kira listened and thought that this was directly about her, about how the lack of money determines her whole life, all her choices. $50,000. She shook her head, chasing away the obsessive thought. She focused on the lecture, diligently writing down the main points. But when Professor Adams finished and announced a break, Kira realized that she had remembered almost nothing of what had been said. The seminar was even worse. They discussed an article about poverty and social mobility, and Kira remained silent, staring at her laptop. Other students actively argued and put forward theories, but she just sat and thought. She thought about what Rochelle had said yesterday, about what Rochelle had done a year ago, about the $50,000. After class, she went into the student cafe, bought the cheapest sandwich and coffee, and sat down at a table by the window. She had several messages from her mother on her phone, but Kira was in no hurry to open them. She was afraid of what might be written there. Finally, plucking up her courage, she unlocked her phone. 3 messages from her mother. The first, "Hi, sweetie, how are you?" The second, "Call me when you're free." The third, "I need to talk to you." Kira pressed the call button. Her mother answered after the third ring. "Kira, sweetie, you finally called." "Hi, Mom. Sorry, I had classes." "What happened?" Her mother's voice sounded tired. "Your father is in the hospital. He's had a relapse, and the doctors say he needs surgery. Expensive surgery." Kira's heart sank. Her parents had divorced 5 years ago, but her mother still cared for her father, who lived alone and worked on a construction site. He worked as long as he could. "What's wrong with him? How serious is it?" "Serious. The doctors insist on surgery. Kira, I won't be able to help you this month. I have to pay for my father's treatment." "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know you were counting on my help, but—" "It's okay, Mom," Kira said quickly, even though everything inside her was tied up in a tight knot. "Don't worry. I'll manage. I work, remember? I have money. Focus on Dad." "Are you sure? I don't want you to—" "I'm sure, Mom. Really. How's Dad? Can I talk to him?" They talked for a few more minutes. Her father took the phone, speaking in a weak voice, trying to joke, but Kira could hear how bad he felt. When the conversation ended, she put the phone on the table and stared out the window. The sandwich and coffee had gotten cold, but she didn't want to eat anymore. Mom won't be able to help this month. That meant she would have to pay the rent for her dorm room in full herself, plus food, transportation, everything else. Her salary from the diner would barely be enough, if it was enough at all. $50,000. Oh, God, what was she thinking? It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. But her father was in the hospital. Her mother needed money for his treatment. And Kira had nothing. Absolutely nothing. She spent the rest of the day in a fog. The last lecture passed her by. She arrived at the dorm around 6 in the evening, and Rochelle was in her room, doing some assignment on her laptop. When Kira entered, Rochelle looked at her and immediately understood everything from her face. "What happened?" Kira slowly sank down onto her bed. "My father is in the hospital. He needs surgery. My mother won't be able to help me this month." Rochelle closed her laptop and turned to face her. "Kira—" "I agree," Kira said quietly, without looking up. "To what you suggested yesterday. I agree." There was a long silence. Then Rochelle nodded. "Are you sure? I don't want you to regret it later." "I already regret it," Kira smiled bitterly. "But I have no choice. I need money. I need it urgently." Rochelle stood up, walked over to her nightstand, and took out her phone. "Okay, I'll call Lamont. He'll set up a meeting and explain all the terms. You'll meet with him, listen to what he has to say, and if you change your mind, you can just walk away. No obligations until you agree to it yourself. Deal?" Kira nodded, not trusting her voice. Rochelle dialed the number and put it on speakerphone. After a few rings, a man's voice answered. Low, calm, businesslike. "Rochelle, it's been a while. How are you?" "Hi, Lamont. I'm fine. Listen, I have a friend. She needs your help. She's in the same situation I was in a year ago." "I see. Is she nearby?" "Yes." "Good. Tell her I'm ready to meet and discuss everything. Is 2 o'clock tomorrow convenient for you? The address is the same, the office on Tenderloin Street." Rochelle looked at Kira. She nodded. That works, Rochelle said. Great. Have her come alone. We'll talk about the details. See you then. He hung up. Rochelle looked at Kira. That's it. Tomorrow at 2. Go to the meeting. Listen. Then you can decide. Okay, Kira whispered. She lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Rochelle returned to her laptop, pretending to work on an assignment, but Kira could see that she was worried. What had she done? She had just agreed to sell her virginity to a stranger for money. She had just agreed to something that a year ago would have seemed unthinkable and repulsive to her. But she had no choice. None at all. $50,000. For one night. Just one night. And she would be able to help her father, help her mother, pay for her education, and stop working herself to the bone. Just one night. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep would not come. Ahead of her lay a meeting with Lamont Price, and after that meeting, her life would never be the same again. Kira spent 2 days in constant tension, as if balancing on the edge of a precipice. She went to class, worked at the diner, talked to people, but all the while, the same question echoed in her head. Was she really going to do this? On Tuesday, at exactly 2 o'clock, she stood in front of a nondescript building on Tenderloin Street. The neighborhood wasn't the best. Dirty sidewalks, homeless people on street corners, the smell of garbage and urine. The first floor of the building housed a used electronics store, and the second and third floors were occupied by some kind of offices. A worn sign at the entrance read, Price Consulting, Office 302. Kira climbed the narrow staircase to the third floor. The hallway was dimly lit and smelled of old carpet and something musty. She found the door marked 302, took a deep breath, and knocked. Come in, a man's voice called from behind the door. She entered. The office was small and unremarkable. A desk, 2 chairs for visitors, an old computer, no decorations on the walls. A man of about 35 was sitting at the desk, black, wearing a formal shirt and tie. He looked like an ordinary office worker, which for some reason reassured Kira more than if he had matched her image of a pimp. Kira? He asked, standing up and extending his hand. Lamont Price, please have a seat. She shook his hand, a firm, businesslike handshake, and sat down in the chair opposite him. Lamont sat back down at the table, folded his hands in front of him, and looked at her intently. Rochelle said you're in a difficult financial situation. Tell me more, if you don't mind. Kira briefly described her problems, her job, her studies, her sick father, her mother's inability to help. Lamont listened attentively, without interrupting, nodding at the right moments. I understand, he said when she finished. The situation is really difficult. Well, let's get straight to the point. I organize meetings between wealthy men and girls who need money. This is not street prostitution, Kira. These are high-class, confidential meetings. My clients are businessmen, people with reputations who value discretion. They don't want scandals. They don't want problems. They're just willing to pay for the company of a beautiful young woman. Kira listened, trying not to show how fast her heart was beating. In your case, we're talking about a special offer, Lamont continued. There's a category of clients who are willing to pay significantly more for virgins. Did Rochelle tell you the amount? $50,000, Kira said quietly. That's right. $50,000 in cash for one night, from 10 in the evening until 10 in the morning. 12 hours. The client rents a room, usually a hotel or a rented house. You arrive, spend time with him, and leave. That's it. You get the money in cash the next day. What if I change my mind? Kira asked. Right there, on the spot. Lamont frowned. Then the deal is off, but you won't get the money either. That's why I always tell the girls, think carefully before you agree. It's a serious decision. If you're not 100% sure, it's better to decline now. My clients don't like their time to be wasted. I understand. A few more important points. First, complete confidentiality. You don't tell anyone except your closest friends and family where you're going and why. No photos, no recordings. Second, the client has been vetted. I only work with people I know personally or who have been recommended by reliable people. Third, Safety. Condoms are used, always. This is a mandatory requirement. Kira nodded, not knowing what to say. If you agree, you need to sign a document. Lamont took several sheets of paper out of his desk drawer. Formally, it's a consent form for escort services. The document does not specify what exactly you will be doing, only that you agree to spend time with the client for the agreed amount. This is for my protection, and yours as well. If something goes wrong, we have legal cover. He handed her the document. Kira took it with trembling hands and began to read. The legal jargon was complicated, but the gist was clear. She agreed to provide companion services to Lamont Price's client for a fee of $50,000. No details about the nature of the services were specified. Can I think about it? Kira asked, putting the document aside. Of course, but not for long. I have a client waiting. If you refuse, I'll offer him another girl. So decide quickly. I'll give you 2 days. If you agree, come back the day after tomorrow. We'll sign the papers, and I'll start arranging the meeting. Kira stood up, feeling her legs buckle. Okay, I'll think about it and let you know. One more thing. Lamont stopped her. Are you really a virgin? Because the client will know if you're not. And then there will be very serious problems. Yes, Kira replied quietly. I really am a virgin. Lamont nodded. Then I'll see you the day after tomorrow. Or I won't. It's up to you. Kira left the office on shaky legs. Outside, she stopped, leaned against the wall of the building, and took a deep breath. 2 days. She had 2 days to make a final decision. But truth be told, the decision had already been made. She knew it when she went to the meeting. She knew it when she climbed the stairs. She knew it when she crossed the threshold of the office. $50,000. Her father was in the hospital. Her mother couldn't help. She had no choice. The next day, Thursday, Kira returned to Lamont's office. He wasn't even surprised to see her. I thought you'd be back, he said, taking out the documents. Read carefully and sign here, here, and here. Kira signed all the pages, trying not to think about what she was signing. Lamont put the documents in the safe, locked it, and turned to her. Great. Now the process is underway. I'll contact the client and arrange a meeting. It usually takes about a week. Wait for my call. As soon as I get the address and time, I'll let you know. Any questions? No, Kira whispered. Then go and live your normal life. Try not to think about it too much. When everything is ready, I'll call you. The week of waiting was torture for Kira. She went to class but couldn't concentrate. She worked at the diner but kept messing up orders, which got her in trouble with the manager. She couldn't sleep at night, going over and over what she was going to do. Several times she was tempted to call Lamont and cancel everything, but she stopped herself. Her father was in the hospital. Her mother needed the money. She had no choice. Rochelle tried to support her, but Kira could see that even her friend was worried. On Wednesday evening, as they sat in their room, Rochelle suddenly asked, Are you sure you want to do this? It's not too late to back out. It's too late, Kira replied. I've already signed the papers. Papers are just papers. You don't have to go. What's he going to do to you? I don't know. And I don't want to know. I'm going through with this. On Friday morning, while Kira was sitting in class, the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. She left the classroom and answered. Kira, it's Lamont. Everything is ready. Tomorrow, Saturday, 8 p.m. Write down the address. She frantically searched for a pen and paper and ended up opening the notes on her phone. Ready? Marin County, Mill Valley, Sequoia Drive, house number 123. It's a big mansion. You can't miss it. Be there at 8 o'clock sharp. The client doesn't like delays. Any questions? No. Then good luck. And remember, don't do anything stupid. Keep calm, do what he asks, and you'll be home with the money by morning. It's simple. He hung up. Kira stood in the empty university hallway, staring at the address on her phone. Tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. In less than 30 hours, her life would change forever. She spent Saturday in a kind of stupor. Rochelle canceled all her plans and stayed with her in her room. Around 6 in the evening, she said, Okay, Enough sitting around like you're at a funeral. Let's get you ready. You need to look good. Rochelle took a black dress out of the closet. Not too revealing, but elegant. Try it on. I think it will suit you. The dress fit perfectly. Rochelle did Kira's makeup. Nothing flashy, but it highlighted her beauty. She did her hair. She picked out a pair of low-heeled shoes. You look beautiful, Rochelle said, stepping back to take in the result. Seriously, he'll be thrilled. Kira looked at her reflection in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. She looked older, more confident, not at all like the usual exhausted student. Now listen carefully, Rochelle said seriously. When you arrive, act calm, smile, be polite. If he offers you a drink, accept it, but don't get drunk. Keep yourself under control. If he wants to talk to him. Don't show that you're nervous. Pretend that everything is under control. Okay, Kira whispered. Rochelle suddenly stood up and walked over to her nightstand. She rummaged through the drawer and took out something small, wrapped in dark cloth. She unwrapped it. It was a gun. Small, compact. What's that? Kira asked, stunned. A gun, .22 caliber. Take it with you. Why? For protection, just in case. Lamont says it's safe, and in 99% of cases it is. But you never know. Put it in your purse and leave it there. Most likely you won't need it at all, but I'll feel better knowing you have it. Rochelle, I don't know how to shoot. I've never even held a gun before. It's not complicated. Look, here's the safety catch. You move it down, aim, pull the trigger. That's it. But I repeat, you probably won't need it. It's just for my peace of mind. Kira took the gun. It was surprisingly light and cold. She put it in her small purse, where her phone, keys, and lipstick were. Are you sure this is a good idea? She asked. I'm sure. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. At 7:30, Kira ordered a taxi. Rochelle hugged her goodbye. Everything will be fine. I'll be in touch. If anything goes wrong, call me immediately. I'll come and sort it out. Agreed? Agreed. Kira nodded. The taxi arrived 10 minutes later. Kira sat in the back seat and gave the driver the address. He nodded and pulled away. They left the city, heading across the Golden Gate Bridge toward Marin County. Kira looked out the window at the lights of San Francisco slowly receding behind them and thought that this might be the last time she would see them as the old Kira. When she returned, she would be a different person. The drive took about 40 minutes. They turned off the main highway and drove along narrow roads winding between hills covered with dense forest. Finally, the driver stopped in front of a large wrought iron gate. This is the address you gave me, he said. Kira paid him and got out of the car. The gate was ajar. Behind it was a long driveway leading to a large mansion. Lights were on in several windows. Kira took a deep breath, adjusted her dress, and walked down the driveway. A man stood at the entrance to the house, tall, muscular, black, about 30 years old. He was dressed in a black shirt and jeans, and from the way he stood, it was clear that he was a security guard. Are you Kira? He asked. Yes. I'm Tyrone. Mr. Castillo is waiting for you inside. Come in. He opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Kira crossed the threshold. Inside, the mansion was even more impressive. High ceilings, marble floors, expensive furniture. Tyrone led her through the hall into a spacious living room. Wait here. Mr. Castillo will be down shortly. He left, and Kira was left alone. She sat down on the edge of the sofa, clutching her purse in her hands. Her heart was beating so hard that it seemed to be audible throughout the entire house. A few minutes later, a man entered the living room. He was about 45, of medium height, with a graying beard and attentive dark eyes. He was dressed in expensive pants and a white shirt with an open collar. He looked dignified and confident. Kira? He asked softly with a slight accent. I'm Devin Castillo. It's very nice to meet you. He held out his hand, and Kira stood up to shake it. Nice to meet you, she muttered. Please have a seat, he said, pointing to the sofa. You look tense. I understand, but try to relax. We're just going to spend some time together. It's nothing to be afraid of. He walked over to the bar in the corner of the room. "Would you like a drink? I have some excellent wine." "Yes, please," said Kira, although she usually hardly ever drank. Devin poured 2 glasses of red wine, brought one to her, and sat down in the armchair opposite her. He raised his glass. "To a pleasant evening." Kira raised her glass, clinked it with his, and took a sip. The wine was tart and strong, warming her from the inside. "Lamont said you're a student," Devin began. "What are you studying?" "Sociology." "Interesting. Do you like it?" "Yes, I do. I want to work in social services later, helping people." "A noble goal," he nodded. "That dress suits you, by the way. You're very beautiful." "Thank you." Kira felt herself blush. They talked for a while longer, about her studies, San Francisco, the weather. Devin was courteous and polite, not trying to rush her. Gradually, Kira felt the tension ease a little. Maybe everything would be fine after all. Maybe it was just a business deal, and by morning she would be back home with the money. When the glasses were empty, Devin stood up. "Shall we go upstairs?" Kira nodded, not trusting her voice. They climbed the wide staircase to the second floor. Devin opened the door to a large bedroom with a huge 4-poster bed. Kira entered, and the door closed behind her. The night began. Kira woke up to bright sunlight streaming through the bedroom window. For a few seconds, she couldn't figure out where she was. Then it all came back to her. The mansion. Devin. Last night. She was lying alone in a huge bed, covered with a heavy blanket. There was no one else there. She sat up and reached for the phone on the bedside table. It was 10 in the morning. Exactly 12 hours had passed since she arrived here. The deal was done. It was time to leave. Kira got up, found her dress on a chair, and got dressed. She freshened up in the bathroom, washing her face with cold water. In the mirror, a pale, tired girl with a dull look stared back at her. She quickly looked away. Not now. There would be time later to think about what had happened. Later, when she was home, with the money. She went downstairs. There was no one in the living room, but she heard voices in the kitchen. Kira went there and saw Devin sitting at the table with a cup of coffee. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt and looked relaxed and content. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Good morning," Kira replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, thank you. I have to go." Devin finished his coffee, put the cup on the table, and looked at her. Something in his gaze had changed. The polite politeness was gone, replaced by something harsh. "You're not going anywhere," he said calmly. Kira froze. "What?" "I said you're not going anywhere. You're staying here." "I don't understand. Our deal is over. 12 hours have passed. I need to leave and I need my money." Devin laughed, shortly and unpleasantly. "Money? What money?" "Kira, sweetheart, I paid much more than $50,000 for you. Do you think I paid that amount for one night? No. I paid to buy you. You are now my property." The blood drained from Kira's face. "That's not true. It was a deal. One night for money. Lamont said—" "Forget what Lamont said," Devin interrupted. Kira felt the room spin before her eyes. "This is impossible. This can't be true." "No," she whispered. "No, that's not true. My friend said—" "She herself." "Your friend?" Devin smirked. "She must have been luckier." Kira stepped back toward the kitchen door. "I'm leaving. Right now. And if you try to stop me, I'll go to the police." "The police?" Devin stood up from the table. "And what will you tell them? That you agreed to prostitution, signed a document, came here voluntarily, slept with me, and then changed your mind?" He took a step toward her, and Kira instinctively backed away. "You're coming with me to Mexico," Devin continued. "I have a good business there, lots of clients. You'll work for me, and if you're obedient, it won't be so bad. But if you try to run away or do something stupid, then it will be very bad." "Tyrone!" The security guard entered the kitchen. He no longer looked polite. His face was hard and indifferent. Take her upstairs, Devin ordered. Lock her in the bedroom. We're leaving in a couple of hours. No! Kira screamed, but Tyrone had already grabbed her arm. She tried to break free, but he was much stronger. He dragged her to the stairs, ignoring her attempts to resist. Don't do this, please! Kira screamed, but Tyrone remained silent. He dragged her upstairs, pushed her into the bedroom where she had spent the night, and slammed the door shut. He clicked the lock. Kira rushed to the door and pounded on it with her fists. Let me out! Let me out! Help! No one answered. Outside the window was a forest, miles away from the nearest houses. No one would hear her cries. She stepped away from the door, breathing heavily. Panic rose in waves, threatening to overwhelm her. This is impossible. This can't be happening. She was trapped. They wanted to take her to Mexico. Turn her into... She couldn't even finish the thought. Kira rushed around the room trying to find a way out. The windows were locked, and even if she broke the glass, the second floor was too high. The door was locked from the outside. The phone. She grabbed the phone, but of course there was no signal. The mansion was in the woods, far from any cell towers. She sat down on the bed, wrapping her arms around her head. What to do? What the hell to do? Her purse. She suddenly remembered her purse. Rochelle had given her a gun. For protection, just in case, she said. Kira grabbed her purse and opened it. A small black gun lay at the bottom. She took it out with trembling hands. She never thought in her life that she would have to use a weapon. She never thought she would find herself in such a situation. But now, she had no choice. Either she would defend herself, or they would take her to Mexico, and then her life would be over. Kira remembered Rochelle's words. Safety off, aim, pull the trigger. She turned the safety off and clutched the gun in her hand. It was so light. Could this little thing really kill a person? An hour passed in agonizing anticipation. Kira sat on the bed, clutching the gun, listening to every sound. Finally, she heard footsteps on the stairs. The key turned in the lock. The door opened. Devin entered alone, without Tyrone. He was dressed in a travel suit and was carrying a small suitcase. Get ready, he said. We're leaving in 20 minutes. I brought you some clothes here. He didn't have time to finish. Kira raised the gun and pointed it at him. Her hands were shaking so badly that she could barely hold the weapon. Step away from the door, she said in a broken voice. Devin stopped and stared at the gun. His face showed surprise, then mockery. Kira, don't be stupid. Put it down. You don't even know how to shoot. Back off, she shouted. I'll shoot. No, you won't. He took a step toward her. You're too scared. Give me the gun, and I'll forget about this nonsense. He reached out his hand, taking another step, and Kira fired. The sound of the shot deafened her. The gun jerked in her hand from the recoil. Devin froze, his eyes wide open. A red stain spread across his white shirt in the middle of his chest. He looked down at the stain, then at Kira. He opened his mouth, but instead of words, blood came out. He took a step back, staggered, and collapsed to the floor. Kira stared at him, unable to believe what she had just done. Devin lay motionless, blood oozing from the wound. His eyes were open, but empty. She had killed a man. My God, she had killed a man. Screams rang out on the first floor. Heavy footsteps came up the stairs. Tyrone heard the gunshot and ran upstairs. Kira jumped out of the room, leaped over Devin's body and ran toward the stairs. Tyrone was just coming up and they collided on the landing. He was huge, twice her size. He grabbed her by the shoulder. "What have you done?" he roared. Kira raised the gun. She didn't think, she didn't aim. She just pulled the trigger. The shot rang out. Tyrone let go of her shoulder and grabbed his neck. Blood gushed between his fingers. He tried to say something, but only a gurgling sound came out of his throat. He staggered and fell backward, rolling down the stairs. Kira stood there, staring at him. 2 people. She had killed 2 people in 2 minutes. Run. You have to run. Now. She ran down the stairs, stepping over Tyrone's motionless body below. In the hallway, on the table by the mirror, lay the keys to a car. She recognized the Mercedes emblem. She grabbed them and ran out of the mansion. A black Mercedes was parked in the driveway. Kira pressed the button on the keys, and the car's headlights flashed. She yanked open the door, got behind the wheel, and inserted the key into the ignition. Her hands were shaking so badly that she had trouble getting the key in. The engine started. She pressed the gas pedal, and the car lurched forward. The gate was open. Kira flew out onto the road and turned toward the city. She drove fast, too fast, barely keeping the car on the winding road. Tears streamed down her face. Her breathing was uneven. Her mind was in complete chaos. Fragments of thoughts, images, blood. So much blood. She had killed 2 people. She was a murderer. No, it was self-defense. They wanted to take her away, turn her into a slave. She was defending herself. But who would believe her? She had no proof. Devon had proof. A signature, cameras, documents. Everyone would think she came willingly, slept with him, and then killed and robbed him. Kira turned onto the highway, heading for San Francisco. There were almost no other cars. It was Sunday morning. People were still asleep. She drove, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles, trying to think. What to do? Where to go? She couldn't drive home in this car. They would find it right away. She had to abandon the car, somewhere in a crowded place where it wouldn't be noticed quickly. 40 minutes later, she entered Daly City, a small town between San Francisco and the suburbs. She saw a large shopping center with a huge parking lot. She turned in there. At that time, the parking lot was almost empty. The stores weren't open yet. Kira drove the Mercedes into the far corner and turned off the engine. She threw the keys into a trash can next to the parking lot and wiped the steering wheel and door handles with her dress sleeve, removing her fingerprints. The gun was still in her purse. She had to get rid of it too. Kira walked down the street, trying to look calm. A girl in a black dress walking on a Sunday morning. Nothing unusual. No one paid any attention to her. She reached the bus stop and sat down on a bench. 15 minutes later, the bus arrived. Kira sat by the window and pressed her face against the glass. She couldn't stop shaking. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Devon's face, his glassy gaze, the blood on his shirt. She saw Tyrone clutching his neck and falling down the stairs. At one of the stops, several people got on the bus. Kira quickly got up and got off. She saw a trash can on the corner. She took the gun out of her purse, wrapped it in a napkin, and threw it into the trash can, deep down under a pile of garbage. Now she had no weapon, no evidence. She got on the next bus and continued on her way to the dormitory. She arrived there around 7 in the evening. She climbed the stairs and opened the door to her room. Rochelle was sitting on the bed with her phone, and when Kira entered, she jumped up. "My God, Kira, where have you been? I was worried. You didn't answer your calls or texts. How did it go?" Kira looked at her with a blank stare. "Everything's fine," she said hoarsely. "Everything's okay. Don't ask any questions. Please." "But don't ask any questions," Kira shouted. Rochelle recoiled, looking at her in fear. Kira walked to her bed, lay down, and turned away toward the wall. "I'm sorry," she muttered. "I'm just very tired. I want to sleep." Rochelle was silent. Then she said quietly, "Okay, if you want to talk, I'm here." Kira didn't answer. She lay there, staring at the wall, her arms wrapped around herself. She didn't sleep all night. She just lay there with her eyes open, replaying the events over and over in her head. The gunshot, the blood, the body on the floor. Another gunshot, another body. She was a murderer, 21 years old, a sociology student, a waitress, and a murderer. On Monday morning, Kira didn't go to class. She told Rochelle she was sick. Rochelle looked at her doubtfully but didn't argue. She left for her lectures, and Kira was left alone. Around noon, she turned on her laptop. She went to the local news website, and she saw the headline on the front page, "Double Murder in a Mansion in Marin County." She clicked on the link. A photo of the mansion, the very one where she had been. Police cars, yellow crime scene tape. The text read, This morning, the bodies of 2 men with gunshot wounds were found in a rented mansion in the Mill Valley area. The identities of the victims have not yet been determined. The police are asking anyone with information about this crime to contact the department. Kira closed her laptop. She began to cry, quietly, uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her face and dripped onto the keyboard. She couldn't stop. The door opened. Rochelle had returned early. "Kira, what?" She saw the tears, saw the open laptop. She came over and looked at the screen. She read the headline. Rochelle's face turned pale. "Kira," she whispered. "What happened? What have you done?" Kira couldn't answer. She just cried and cried, rocking from side to side. Rochelle sat down next to her, opened the news, and read on. Then she looked at Kira. "Oh my God, is it there? In that mansion you went to?" Kira nodded. "What happened?" He said I wasn't going anywhere." Kira squeezed out through her tears. "That he paid for me, to buy me, that I'm his property now. He wanted to take me to Mexico. He wanted... Rochelle, he wanted to turn me into... I don't know what. I was scared. I had a gun, the one you gave me. I fired. And then the guard. I fired again. I didn't mean to. I was just scared. Rochelle, I killed them. I killed 2 people. Rochelle covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God. Oh my God." "Kira." Suddenly, the sound of a siren came from outside the window, distant, but getting closer. Then another, and another. They both froze, listening. The sirens were getting louder, closer. "They're coming here," Kira whispered. "For me. They found me." Rochelle stood up and went to the window. She looked out. She turned even paler. "There are police cars, 3 of them. They're heading for our building." Kira sat on the bed, hugging herself. She had stopped crying. She just sat there, staring into space. The sirens stopped right outside their window. Car doors slammed. Voices, commands, footsteps. Rochelle turned to Kira. There was horror in her eyes and something else, perhaps pity. "Kira, what are you going to do?" "Nothing," Kira replied quietly. "What can I do? It's over. My life is over." Footsteps in the hallway, loud, approaching. A knock on the door, sharp, authoritative. "Police, open up!" Kira didn't move. Rochelle slowly walked to the door. She opened it. 3 men entered the room, 2 in uniform, 1 in plain clothes. They all looked at Kira. "Kira Amaechi?" asked the man in plain clothes. "Yes," whispered Kira. "You are under arrest on suspicion of murdering Devin Castillo and Tyrone Joyner. You have the right to remain silent." The voice continued to speak, but Kira was no longer listening. She sat on the bed and stared out the window. Outside, it was a normal day. Sunshine, clouds, people going about their business. Life went on, just without her. One decision, made in a moment of desperation, had ruined everything, forever.